Imagine sitting in a quiet park, enjoying a sunny afternoon, when a group of bullies decides to pick on someone who seems like an easy target, a man in a wheelchair, quietly minding his own business. What they don't realize is this man isn't just anyone. He's a decorated Navy SEAL veteran, a true hero who's faced challenges far tougher than their petty insults. The bullies laugh and taunt, thinking they've found someone powerless to fight back. But appearances can be deceiving. With years of elite military training, this veteran knows exactly how to handle himself, even in the most unexpected situations. As tensions build, the crowd around them starts to notice. Will the bullies get away with their cruel behavior, or are they about to learn a life-changing lesson? Stick around to see how this encounter unfolds. It's a story you won't forget. The man in the wheelchair remained calm, his expression unreadable, as the bullies circled him. They threw out mocking comments, trying to provoke a reaction. To them, he looked like someone who couldn't defend himself, a quiet figure in a park, seemingly alone and vulnerable. What they couldn't see was the years of discipline, strength, and resilience that had been forged through grueling Navy SEAL training and missions most people couldn't even imagine. As the taunts grew louder, a small crowd began to gather. Some onlookers whispered among themselves, unsure whether to step in. Others pulled out their phones, recording the unfolding scene. Still, the veteran didn't flinch. His calm demeanor seemed to confuse the bullies, but they pressed on, believing they had the upper hand. Little did they know, the man was silently assessing the situation, every movement, every word, preparing for what might come next. Something was about to change. One of the bullies, a tall guy with a loud voice, leaned in closer, smirking as he jabbed at the veteran's wheelchair. "What's the matter, old man? Can't keep up?" His friends laughed, their confidence growing with every second of silence from their target. But the veteran's calm, steady gaze didn't waver. To an outsider, it might have looked like fear, but there was something different in his eyes, something sharp, calculating. Among the onlookers, a young woman whispered to her friend, "I think he's a veteran. Look at his posture. He's not scared." Another voice chimed in, "If he is, these guys are messing with the wrong person." Still, no one stepped forward. Meanwhile, the veteran stayed still waiting. His hands rested on the armrests of his wheelchair, relaxed but ready. Every word from the bullies, every laugh, was carefully noted. They had no idea they were walking into their own lesson, a lesson they wouldn't forget. The tension in the air was almost tangible as one of the bullies stepped behind the wheelchair, his hands hovering over the backrest, as if daring to push it. "What's the big deal, huh? Say something." He barked, but the veteran remained silent, his steady composure unnerving even the most confident of them. The crowd around them had grown larger now, murmurs rippling through as people debated whether to step in or keep watching. The veteran's silence was deliberate. He wasn't going to react on their terms. He glanced at the leader of the group, noticing how the man puffed up his chest to keep control. Without saying a word, the veteran adjusted his hands ever so slightly, his muscles tightening in a way only a trained observer might notice. His breathing remained calm, steady. Just as one bully reached out, the veteran finally spoke, his voice firm but low, cutting through the noise like a knife. "You've had your fun. Now I suggest you stop." The calmness of his tone carried a weight that silenced the crowd. The bullies froze for a moment, their confidence faltering. But their leader, unwilling to back down in front of an audience, smirked. "Or what?" he challenged. It was clear now. Things were about to escalate. The crowd leaned in, phones recording, waiting to see what would happen next. The veteran, unmoving, had the entire situation in the palm of his hand, though the bullies had no clue just how outmatched they truly were. The leader took a step closer, his smirk widening. "Or what? You gonna roll away?" The group laughed nervously this time, sensing something wasn't quite right. The veteran didn't answer. Instead, He slowly turned his chair to face them directly, his eyes locking onto the leaders with an intensity that silenced even the most defiant of the bullies. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, without warning, a voice from the crowd cut through the tension. "Leave him alone." A young man stepped forward, his tone firm but uneasy. He wore a hoodie and carried a skateboard, clearly not someone looking for trouble, but unwilling to stay silent. The bullies turned to him, momentarily distracted. "What's it to you?" One of them sneered. But the shift in focus was all the veteran needed. He spoke again, this time louder. "You're not just messing with me," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "You're disrespecting every man and woman who's ever served this country." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding, others clapping quietly. The bullies exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence cracking. Before they could respond, another twist unfolded. An older man in the crowd stepped forward. His gait was steady, his presence imposing despite his casual appearance. "He's right," the man said, pulling back his jacket to reveal a Navy SEAL insignia pinned to his shirt. "And he's not alone." The bullies froze, their bravado fading. The veteran's calm demeanor, the growing support from the crowd, and now the unexpected presence of another SEAL had changed everything. The air buzzed with anticipation. Everyone knew the bullies were cornered. But how this would end was still anyone's guess. The bullies stood frozen, their confidence shattered as they glanced nervously between the veteran and the older man who had just stepped forward. The crowd grew silent, waiting to see what would happen next. The leader of the group, clearly rattled but unwilling to back down completely, muttered, "All right, we're done here." He turned to leave, but the veteran's voice stopped him cold. "Not so fast," the veteran said, his tone firm but not angry. "You think you can walk away after disrespecting me, the people I represent, and everyone watching here today?" The leader hesitated, his friends inching away, no longer eager to support him. The veteran's sharp gaze softened slightly as he leaned forward in his chair. "Here's your chance to do better. Apologize, not just to me, but to everyone here." The leader looked at the crowd, then back at the veteran. His face reddened, and for a moment, it seemed like he might lash out again. But something in the veteran's steady eyes stopped him. He mumbled an apology, barely audible. Louder, the older SEAL said, stepping closer. "Say it like you mean it." "I'm sorry," the leader finally said, his voice trembling. The veteran nodded, a faint smile appearing. "Good. Now remember this moment. Next time, think before you act." As the bully slinked away, the crowd erupted in applause. The veteran raised a hand to quiet them, but just as the tension seemed to dissolve, he glanced toward the older man and said with a wry grin, "Took you long enough, Mike." The man laughed, clapping the veteran on the shoulder. "Figured you had it under control, but it never hurts to back up a brother." The crowd began to disperse, and the young man with the skateboard approached the veteran. "That was incredible," he said, eyes wide. The veteran looked up at him, smiling. "Courage isn't about knowing you'll win. It's about standing up when it matters." And with that, the park returned to calm, leaving everyone with a story they'd never forget. And a lesson about strength, respect, and the power of standing together. As the last of the crowd drifted away, the park returned to its peaceful rhythm. The veteran sat quietly for a moment, watching the bullies disappear into the distance. The older SEAL, Mike, lingered by his side, sharing a knowing smile. "You handled that well," Mike said. The veteran chuckled softly. "Sometimes silence is the best weapon. Let them think they're in control until they aren't." The young man with the skateboard stayed back, clearly inspired. "Thank you," he said, "for standing up, for everything you've done." The veteran nodded. "Remember, standing up isn't just about moments like this. It's about how you live every day." As the sun began to set, the veteran wheeled himself toward the park's exit, the shadows stretching long behind him. His calm strength left an impression on everyone who'd witnessed the scene. It wasn't just a